get away with it. All right, Piers, why did Chase Bank paid almost $400 million? For what? Deutsche Bank paid $71 million to the victims. Where are all these people? If Ghislaine is in jail, Piers, where are the victims? You can't be in charge of a kingpin drug operation and you get arrested and there's no customers. What the hell are we talking about?
I totally agree.
Piers, is handling it horribly.
Ended up bringing on Myron Gaines and Hassan Piker. What? It's a damage control. So they interviewed Netanyahu. People got pissed off. They're like, no. See, we're gonna bring on guys that always talk shit about Jews now. So here's Myron Gaines and Hassan Piker. That's oh my god, how silly, how stupid. It's funny though. So now what? Has everyone calmed down, or is everyone still on their asses about it? Oh, that's funny.
Much and I totally accept that he might be completely blameless when it comes to anything involving Epstein of a nefarious nature, but the sequence of events here is not good.
Absolutely not, Piers, and it's good to see you again.
And you.
But yeah, Piers, and here's the thing, Piers. It's all the people, it's the team around him. Okay, Trump did make a promise, Piers, when he was asked, will you release JFK? Yes. Martin Luther King, yes. 9/11, yes. Jeffrey Epstein, yeah. But with that one, we kind of got to be careful, okay? So it wasn't like he ran on it. It wasn't a campaign promise. But when your team, the Pam Bondis, the Cash Patels, and Dan Bongino, who I admire and I love a lot, are out there on the front lines making all these promises, Piers, you personally, if you had your team of producers and all these people around you, they're speaking on your behalf and they're making all these promises, wouldn't you be like, hey, guys, shut the hell, like, what the hell are we doing?
Well, I think it's worse than that.
Yeah, I agree with Vinny, but at some point, Trump has to take responsibility because he's not doing anything about it. I mean, I guess now they're like, oh, yeah, whatever, just release the files. But man, I think it all started with stupid Pam Bondi when she did that whole binder stunt. Honestly, I don't think this would have been this huge issue if it wasn't for that. To do the whole binder stunt, and then, that was bullshit. And then all of a sudden the memo leaked. I was like, well, actually, now there's no list. And it's like, what? Like, then what the fuck was that binder stunt then? What was up with that? So at some point, listen, yeah, you could argue that it was the people around Trump. Yes, true. But Trump should have then, fired Bondi or something, or at the very least told her to put out some sort of apology or something, all these people, he should have handled them because they're reflecting on him, and now he's the one has to deal with all this shit. But the fact that he's not doing that, and he doubled down, he just made it worse. So now it's a whole fucking thing. If they would have just nipped it in the bud with Bondi, then this would have blown over, or at least not been a huge deal.
Because we all know how Donald Trump operates. They wouldn't have all been doing that off their own bat, right? They'd have all been doing it because they have been encouraged to do it. They were speaking on behalf of his administration. So something went down, and I don't know what it was, and maybe it was the Elon Musk thing. I don't know what it was. I mean, we've now got the Wall Street Journal obviously publishing what they claimed was a hand-drawn, bawdy letter bearing Donald Trump's name to Jeffrey Epstein at Ghislaine Maxwell's request for his 50th birthday album in 2003. A pair of small arcs donate women's breasts. The future president's signature is a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. Now, Trump has responded by saying it absolutely wasn't anything that he did. He's now suing the Wall Street Journal. He's suing Rupert Murdoch for billions of dollars. And we'll have to see how that all plays out. But it was no doubt that they were very good friends for a period of time. It's also no doubt that, to his credit, Trump dropped him when he became knowledge that he was a convicted pedophile, which a lot of other people didn't, including, I don't believe, Ghislaine Maxwell. So I do think there's life before the conviction and life after the conviction for public figures.
Well, it wasn't even before. Didn't he kick Epstein off the golf course? Didn't he ban him from Mar-a-Lago because Jeffrey Epstein was being inappropriate with the waitresses or something like that, or a waitress or something went down. But I want to say this was even before Epstein was convicted of anything. I want to say he kicked him off of Mar-a-Lago. So I want to say this happened even before Epstein got convicted of anything.
If you carried on like Prince Andrew, hanging around a guy who's been convicted of soliciting an underage girl for sex, then I'm afraid you are then guilty by association, right? You can try and pretend you're not, but you are.
Piers, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
You've known Donald Trump for 20 years, admittedly, yes? Okay. You've hung out with him in private. You've hung out with him in public. Yes. Okay. Have you ever known him to be a limp-wristed thespian, like a vaudevillian poet that would write enigmatic, mysterious poems to Jeffrey Epstein and then wear some type of French hat and draw beautiful outlines of women scantily clad? Like, does it sound like Donald Trump to you?
I can say two things about that. I'll say three things about that. One, he's never done that to me, okay, in either written or verbal form. Secondly, evidence has come out that he's been quite a doodler in his time. So I don't think he's never non-doodled. And thirdly, as you probably know, Ben, I mean, I've got probably 150 handwritten scrawls from Trump over things he's read about me, emails I've sent him. That's his way he corresponds. He doesn't use email himself. He'll send you back a printout of your email and he'll scrawl with his Sharpie whatever he wants to scrawl. So he's a scrawler and apparently a doodler, but I have never known him write in the way that you're talking about. So it's going to be a really interesting case here.
They make Donald Trump kind of sound like a kindergartner or something. Like he just like Piers Morgan would send him an email and then Donald Trump would just look at it and draw little stick figures in response or something. I know that's not what Piers is saying, but that's kind of how it kind of comes across, you know?
Listen, the Wall Street Journal wouldn't have published that if they weren't convinced it was genuine. But Trump has been emphatic in his denial.
Calling for them?
Didn't Donald Trump put out a statement though saying that he was aware of that letter beforehand and he actually told them like, hey, that's fake, and if you release that, I will sue you over it. So they ended up releasing it and now he's suing them for it. So there you go.
No, listen, I don't
Apparently
know.
they don't even have the documents. Shouldn't we be calling for them to release every letter?
Right, listen.
Wouldn't that be fair to release? What was Bill Clinton writing Jeffrey Epstein at that time?
Benny, I don't know the answer to the questions you're asking. And it'll be interesting if this actually goes to any actual trial about it.
And Piers, if you don't mind, Piers, and Benny, the biggest problem is that Truth Social post where Trump goes, hey, listen, if you're still talking about it, why are you talking about it? Then I don't need your support. And it's like, what are you talking about? People like me who've been there since 2016 in Los Angeles, I had to move. I was doing stand-up comedy and acting. You know how much crap I had to go through? Punched in the head because I had a red hat, wasn't even a Trump hat. All the jobs that I missed, all my career suffered from it. Pat, we're ride or die. And I think that's where people were pissed off, is don't just discard us, okay? And just tell us the absolute truth. You know, we just want the truth.
That is where Trump went wrong. And I even said that too. I was like, Trump's response to this whole thing was terrible. Because I mean, you can't just brush off your base like that. Like, even if you personally disagree, even if you personally don't care as much about this list or something, you got to acknowledge that your base does, and to just kind of discard them like this, it wasn't a good response. Donald Trump fucked up there. And Vinny's absolutely right. I will say, to be fair to Donald Trump, though, there are a lot of people in MAGA that spurg out over everything. It's like, who needs the left when you have people even within MAGA that every little single thing that he does that is remotely negative or even might be negative, they spurg out about. So, this was just fresh after the whole Iran thing, when people were spurging out about that. So listen, on one hand, I understand Donald Trump's frustrations, because in his eyes, he is trying to do right by us, and he is making a lot of, what he feels like good. He's making a bunch of big accomplishments following on his promises. And so, to him, this may have just been like, some of the MAGA people, some of my own base spurting out again over shit. But still, regardless, though, he shouldn't have just disregarded this, because in the end, it was people in his own administration that fucked this whole thing up. It was his administration that bungled this whole thing. It wasn't just like us spurging about it. Like, it wasn't just people spurging out about it. Like, no, there was reasons to spurg out about this. Like I said, Pam Bondi started it with this whole binder stuff. And then Bongino and Patel came out and was like, oh, we saw the footage, we saw the evidence, and yeah, he did kill himself. Trust us, guys, trust us. It's like, what? And then the memo leaked, or it's like they found that there is no list. And it's like, well, what the hell? So then what the fuck was up with Bondi then? Why did she do all that shit if there was no list in the first place? So yeah.
Tell us the truth. Tell us what the hell is going on. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Vinny,
BS,
I hear you. Vinny, I hear you, because I do think a lot of MAGA voters feel exactly the same way. But I think they were deliberately led up a pathway here on the Epstein files that A, it was a really big deal, and that B, there was a lot that the public weren't being told that was available to the authorities, and that the moment the Trump gang got back into power, that this would all be revealed. And then after Donald Trump won, the team carried on revving everybody up. Let me come to you.
Yeah, no, it's true. You like, because Vinny is
Mick
right.
Mulvaney, if I may.
Donald Trump never made this a big thing. It wasn't like he was like, I am going to stop illegal immigration and I'm going to release the Epstein files. Like, he never made that a big promise. So Vinny is right on that. But again, his team went and fucked it up. His administration fucked this up. And yeah, his administration did leave us up on a path. And then when it was revealed that, oh, actually there is no list, obviously people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean there's no list? What do you mean this is some kind of big Democrat conspiracy or whatever Trump said about it? Like, what do you mean? Doesn't make any sense.
We're going to fix Vinny's earpiece, I think. Mick Mulvaney, as we're talking, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, has just sent the House into recess early, shutting down until September to block a vote calling for the release of the Epstein files. He says it's because the Democrats are playing political games. All other votes have been cancelled in order to prevent the vote on Epstein. So the idea of this isn't having real-world significant consequences is obviously for the birds. When the House is shutting down and other votes are being cancelled because they can't take a risk of a vote on Epstein, then it's a big deal. And I think it's a big deal because of all the activity on the Trump side before and after the election about these files. What's your view?
I think that's fair. I've never seen this happen before. I've been in Washington for 15 years. I was in Congress for 6. I was in the White House for 4. I don't remember ever seeing Congress just shutting down this early in July and leaving until September. Keep in mind, and I know that's not what this segment is about, but there's a lot of other things that Congress needs to be doing. The federal government runs out of money the end of September, so they're staring at a federal shutdown if they don't pull something off when they get back. This is a big deal, and I think it comes back to the point you guys have raised. They don't know how to handle it. Everybody's confused because Trump did make a big deal about this for a long time. I thought rightly so. And then just to sort of turn on a dime and say there's nothing to see here as a bunch of people.
Again, Trump never made a big deal out of it. Not Trump himself, maybe his base, but no, Trump has never made it a big deal. I did a video on it when he was on the Lex Friedman show in October. In October, before he got elected, Lex Friedman asked him, like, well, are you going to release the Epstein files? And Trump was just like, yeah, why not? I'll take a look at it. I'll see. I'll take a look at it. And even in that same breath, he was like, I'm much more interested in the JFK files. I'm much more interested in that. But yeah, I'll take a look at the Epstein stuff. Sure. So he seemed much more interested in the MLK and JFK stuff, which he also released. But the Epstein, it seemed kind of like, yeah, sure, why not? He never made it a big deal.
Scratching their heads. One of the most interesting things I've learned in this interview is a bunch of fascinating stuff. When you had Lauren Boebert on there, I don't think you'll find anybody more pro-Trump than Lauren Boebert in the United States House of Representatives. She has signed a discharge petition. That means very little to folks out in the real world. That's the most treasonous thing you can do against your leadership in the United States House. So if there's enough Republicans willing to go against the Speaker of the House and say, you know what, we don't care, we want this stuff to come out, That's also just sort of thumbing their nose at the president. Donald Trump a couple of weeks ago got asked, what does MAGA really mean? And he said, and he's got the right to say this, he's MAGA means whatever I say it means. This is putting this to the test. I do think they've stepped here. I think they've already sort of tacitly admitted that by saying they're going to now try to release the grand jury testimony, see if that satisfies everybody. It won't.
Yeah, it won't.
But they do have a problem here. And for the sake, look, to be perfectly clear, and I don't know if this has been, I think if anybody said this explicitly, I apologize for the repetition. I don't expect there's anything criminal about Donald Trump in these files. Is his name going to be in there? Sure, there's a bunch of names in there, but there's nothing incriminating here. Why do I believe that? Because if there were, the Democrats who have controlled this file for the last 4 years would have either leaked it out or put it out.
That's exactly, you know what?
Exactly.
That's exactly what I think. And why wouldn't they? They're chucking everything else at him. They were trying to get him jailed left, right, and center.
Yeah, exactly. The Democrats were so desperate to get Donald Trump out of the running for president again that they were trying to charge him up on these trumped up charges. So why would they put in all this effort to trump up these charges if they had this nuke sitting right there? If they could have just used this nuke, and because this would have definitely ended Donald Trump if there was actual evidence that Donald Trump was being inappropriate on Epstein's island. Oh yeah. Oh, he would have been done for. Even the most hardcore of Trump supporters wouldn't have been able to support him after that, including myself. So you mean to tell me that the Democrats had that and didn't use it on him? It doesn't make any sense. On the contrary, though, now on the flip side, I should say, on the flip side, when Donald Trump says that this whole list was some kind of made up Democrat thing, that also doesn't make sense, because if they could just make up a list, like an Epstein list, then why wouldn't they just make up that Donald Trump was on the list? If they could have just made it up and been like, oh yeah, see, look, here it is. Here's this proof that Donald Trump was being inappropriate on there. Well, then why didn't they do that as well? It just, so many questions. Like Donald Trump, his whole thing about like, well, the Democrats, it's a made up thing by the Democrats. It's like, yes, I could believe they did that, but if they did do that, then why didn't they use it? And so his explanation just left open so many more questions, and he hasn't really clarified other than, well, this is the same party that did the Russia hoax and this and that, and now they're coming out with that proof that Obama made up the Russia hoax, which is great. But it's not going to mean anything if they don't try to lock up Obama or whoever was a part of this. But they just said, well, look, the Democrats make up of shit all the time. Oh, yeah, I believe that. I do. But why would they make up this whole stuff and not use it against Donald Trump? It just doesn't make any sense. It's just more confusing. So what I would like for the Trump and the administration to do is just be as transparent as possible. Explain everything. Have Bondi come clean and tell why she did the whole binder stunt, what was going through her head, if it was just a big mistake, or if she was trying to drum up interest for some reason, if she was trying to garner support online. I don't know. Whatever her explanation is, she needs to just be honest, even if it was to deceive the people. If it was to deceive the people, then she needs to apologize. But she needs to explain that. Donald Trump needs to put out some kind of press thing and be like, this is what I mean. Or even Caroline Leavitt, whoever wants to do it, needs to put out something and saying, well, this is what we mean. We did this investigation and we found that there was actually no client list. There never was a client list. Yes, there were people that Epstein was trafficking young girls to, but is there an actual physical list? There is no physical list. We actually have no evidence of this list at all. So we actually don't know the people on there, even if we wanted to. Something like that, just something. Just be honest and transparent. That's all Donald Trump's base wants. That's what we voted him in for, is because we felt Donald Trump was going to be the more honest and transparent administration, as the Democrats are just, anything but that.
All right, don't talk about guys. I'm going to Benny.
Yeah.
Piers, unless they're on the list, like, think about it. You want to talk about Democrats? Like, of course they wouldn't want this out. Like, has anybody asked Bill Clinton why did Jeffrey Epstein visit the White?
Yeah, but you see, Vinny, that's also a good point. But that also raises a question.
Michael Kimball, member for 1 month. Thank you very much, Michael. Let's see. Hey, bro, good to see you. Why did the electric car feel discriminated against? Because the rules weren't current. Thank you very much, Michael. I'm always a big fan of the dad jokes. Love it. I love it. I think Trump's not directly talking about the list only. I think he's alluding to the whole narrative. I see. It's like just like the false claims and the paid for psyop Hillary bought. I see. So you think that Trump's talking about just the narrative, like the complete Epstein narrative in general, but what exactly though? And there's, like I said, there's still questions. I'm still confused. What exactly did the Democrats make up? That there's a physical list, that there is no Epstein Island, that there were no victims of Epstein, that there was no trafficking of these girls? What's the narrative? Like, what part of the narrative did the Democrats make up? That's the, because obviously, clearly, I mean, there is an Epstein Island, right? Clearly, because Ghislaine Maxwell's in jail. So clearly there was some shit going on. Clearly there were victims that have come out. So clearly there was something going on. Epstein also was convicted himself of this. So not all of it was a lie. So what parts were a lie? What parts were manufactured by the Democrats?
Given they hadn't released anything, then that's why everybody wanted the Republicans to, and then they didn't. Benny, my thing with Trump is you can normally tell when he's worried about something by the sheer volume of things he does to try and distract everybody's attention. And several days ago, he posted more than 24 times on his social media platform, Truth Social, in just a couple of hours, phony mugshots of Obama, showing him apparently being arrested in the Oval Office, posting about the NFL's Washington Commanders, demanding they change their name back to the Redskins, posting a video of a bikini-clad woman picking up and tossing a snake, a man somersaulting down a stairway, a red Lamborghini careering beneath a truck, a man jumping a fence and coming face-to-face with a speeding train, a woman breakdancing, a billiards tree, a man hacking away at a rock formation, a dirt biker doing stunts, a jet ski, a man ascending an obstacle course with a ladder, a man jump roping, a man pulling a block from a still-standing massive Jenga tower, a man tossing rubbish into a dumpster from his balcony, a man doing a flip, somebody carrying a heavy object on their shoulders, a man juggling a drop package of paper towels, and someone doing a skateboard trick. I mean, there's a lot of distraction there, Benny.
That sounds like a great social media feed.
It was actually very entertaining.
Like I'm going to follow.
Very entertaining, but normally something that he reserves for when he really is quite worried about something.
Well, yes, that's right. It's the same account that's also posted, "Kill all terrorists, you dumb bastards," and posted constantly about Rosie O'Donnell. And somebody who also said he has a bigger button than Kim Jong-un. I think, Nick, you might have been at the White House, actually, when that when that post was, I have a big red button, and it actually works. Once again, this is President Trump, and the actions today, I don't know if, I know you weren't taking it live because we were doing the interview, but the actions that President Trump said today in the White House moments ago when he was asked about this, he fielded a number of questions on Epstein. He said, let Pam Bondi release everything. Let the FBI release everything. Let them interview Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm confounded as to why Ghislaine Maxwell has never once gotten an opportunity to explain herself. Not in her trial. She never spoke. Not to the press. The one time that she did an interview from prison, she said Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. And I think they got to him. Well, who's they exactly? That's what shrouds the mystery here. And the move by the DOJ, I think we need to take a moment, step back and say, wait a second, this is the first time that the DOJ has ever reached out to Ghislaine Maxwell in the history of us trying to understand what the Epstein op actually is. And this goes back 20 years. If you really want to get down to the true cover-up, and this is what makes my blood boil, that people inside of the current Trump administration are walking around with a dark cloud over them for a cover-up that happened 20 years ago when President Trump was a TV host. This was happening in 2005, 2006, 2007, and 2008. With Robert Mueller at the FBI, with Alberto Gonzales as our attorney general, and George W. Bush as our president. This is when Epstein actually properly caught his sweetheart deal, so sweet it'd give you diabetes type 2, Piers.
Yeah, no, I know.
He was able to walk in and out of prison.
Outrageous.
He was dead to rights. Jeffrey Epstein should not be on the tip of anyone's tongue today. He should be rotting in a prison cell for life. Now, something dark happened then, 20 years ago nearly, and it had nothing to do with President Trump. No one in President Trump's team was in power. And I know clips from my show, Kash Patel, have gone viral. Clips from your show, Alina Habba, has gone viral. But none of these people were in power. None of them should have to answer for the cover-up that happened 20 years ago. And that should truly be the nexus of our questions. What happened then when Jeffrey Epstein was caught underage trafficking over 50 women in 2025? What happened was he started giving up sources to the FBI. Robert Mueller gave him immunity in 2005. Correction.
I know. I was going to say, I was like 2025. I was like, wait a minute.
2005. Robert Mueller was the head of the FBI. You know who was also at the FBI as a deputy? James Comey at that time, Piers. And so then through the course of the prosecution in Florida, the federal charges are dropped. Alex Acosta gets told he belongs to Intel and to not look into it. Jeffrey Epstein gets the sweetest of sweetheart deals, and Ghislaine Maxwell is arguing that I have immunity because the federal government told me I have immunity forever, which is something, of course, the federal government never does. So that's insane.
But Benny, let me ask you this.
All right, but Benny, looking at those questions.
Listen, I think you make a lot of very good points. I totally agree with you. But on this point about,
well, I mean, that just adds to the whole like who is they? I mean, who is they? And is it the deep state? Well, who is in the deep state? You know, that's just, it adds to it. And that's exactly what we wanted Donald Trump to find. But I mean, listen, if I've given up hope on any kind of list or any kind of like really good information coming from this, but even with like Trump, like if Trump can't get it done, then it makes me think like, well, you know, who is on this list? You know, or at least who is involved in this whole thing? Or even Donald Trump can't get it leaked. Because I got to believe that if Trump is not allowing complete, like if he is the one withholding this information, then I have to believe that either he's been threatened or his loved ones have been threatened or someone, I don't know. There has to be some kind of reason why he's not releasing everything and being truly forthcoming. And I don't think it's because he's actually, again, on the list. Because like I said, if it were true, I think that would have came out a long time ago. And I think the Democrats would have definitely used that.
House Speaker Mike Johnson shutting the House down to avoid a vote on Epstein. How does that do anything but just ramp everything up tenfold?
Totally agree with you. You know, we went thermonuclear viral, made international news last week by asking Mike Johnson live on our stream inside of the United States Capitol about this issue. And he said he's totally in favor of full disclosure. But what he said today was that he wants, I agree. I contend that there are countervailing opinions here. And but Mike Johnson told me in a 2-minute, what I thought very thorough answer, that he wants full disclosure here and that he'd be okay with Ghislaine Maxwell testifying before Congress. Now, what he said today was that he wants to give the White House time to maneuver this or to work on this. I'm not sure his exact language. So maybe Mick, who's been a member of Congress, can commentate on what that actually means. But that's what he told us last week.
Well, I'll come to Mick in a moment. Vinny, what do you feel about that? I mean, I just think that's such a bad move to shut the House down and to block other votes happening simply so you can stop a vote on the Epstein scandal. Just seems to me a ridiculously inflammatory act, which is only going to pour fuel onto all the conspiracy flames.
I agree 100%. It's like Piers, how many more games do we have to play? And at the end of the day, the root of all this, and I know Benny can attest, Benny has a family, you guys have kids. These are we're talking about children, okay? The most overlooked, uncared about freaking group of freaking people on the planet. We had 300,000 during Obama missing at the border. Trump, God bless him, they found with Thomas Homan 10,000. But at the crux of this whole thing, and Benny made a great point, 40, 50 women came out. We were, taken advantage of. We were sexually assaulted by this guy. And he's free to go, and it's the they. Who's Alex Acosta saying? They said he worked for intelligence. Who are they? Who are these people? And Piers, there's a lot of debate where people are like, why would you want to do this? Maybe society's built on all this blackmail. If he works for Mossad and they have all this dirt, then the whole system's going to come down. There's a Latin term, and it says, "Let justice be done, though the heavens fall." I don't give a damn, Piers, what happens to the system. We're talking about children that were raped, that were freaking potentially murdered, Piers. Because if you think about it, these children, these underage 13, I know Epstein loved girls with braces. Those are 10, 11-year-old girls. What do you think happens with them when they sleep with one of these higher up people, like a really famous person? You think they just let them go? No, they're discarded, Piers, and that's the main part of it. And Trump needs to wrangle this freaking team.
You know what, Vinny?
Yeah.
We know what happens to some of them. We know what happened to Virginia Giuffre. She may not have been an impeccable witness. She obviously got things wrong with Alan Dershowitz. But the truth is, she was paid millions by Prince Andrew and by Ghislaine Maxwell not to go into a courtroom. And in my experience, when people pay millions of dollars to people, it's not because they've never met them or don't think there's anything to answer, right? So she recently, here's my point. She recently took her own life, right? So, some of these victims are actually taking their lives because of the appalling trauma that they went through. And so there are real-time consequences that are reverberating for many years after all this stuff. He was one of the worst pedophiles in America. Let's be clear. And Ghislaine Maxwell was at his side for a lot of that time. And I just don't buy the protestations of innocence. Mick Mulvaney. Vinny, sorry. Go on, make your final point.
Piers, me neither. And what was Prince Andrew? Pays $11 million. And what did the Queen do? What was his punishment? Jail? No, he was stripped of royal speaking duties. So if you're a pedophile and you're out there, your goal should be in a good family or be as rich and famous as possible, because then you could get away with it. All right, Piers? Why did Chase Bank paid almost $400 million? For what? Deutsche Bank paid $71 million to the victims. Where are all these people? If Ghislaine is in jail, Piers, where are the victims? You can't be in charge of a kingpin drug operation and you get arrested and there's no customers. What the hell are we talking about?
I totally agree.
Piers, is handling it horribly.
Vinny,
horribly.
I completely agree. Mick Mulvaney, just finally, how damaging could all this be? Things seem to be moving at a fast lick here. And I do think this action by the speaker is just going to absolutely ignite this. Because let's be honest, again, if this was the Biden administration and a Democrat speaker of the House doing this to shut down a scandal because it may or may not, name Biden in it, all hell would be breaking loose from the other side. So I can only imagine how this is going to play out with the Democrats. You must be thinking Christmas has come early, right when they've been at their weakest point. But what do you think of the political damage that Trump potentially faces here? Because I listened to someone like Vinny, who's always been unbelievably supportive of Donald Trump. He's MAGA personified in so many ways. And I can feel the sense of slight betrayal with Vinny and slight, I've been let down here, and I don't blame him. I would do too.
I mean, keep in mind, Donald Trump's not running again, but the other Republicans are. I think what you're seeing today with this suspension of Congress is that a tacit admission that they just don't know how to handle this. Lost in a lot of the discussion is the technicalities of the discharge petition would have been ripe tomorrow. So it would have been a privileged motion and it could have passed as early tomorrow. And I think the House leadership just didn't know how to deal with that. So they tried to sort of take the next 6 weeks and figure out how to explain it, figure they have a better chance of winning in the press than they do on Capitol Hill. But they've got a tiger by the tail. They really do. This is one of the things that I think folks are really upset about is that Donald Trump has made a name for himself keeping his campaign promises. He's done it on immigration. He's done it on taxes. This is the difference, right? He promised to do this. Now, I know Benny said he didn't exactly promise as aggressively. I don't remember that. I just remember him talking about the Epstein files during the campaign, and folks really are scratching their head. I think at the end of the day, 6 months from now, when we look back at this, if it's done in 6 months, it will be, okay, did Donald Trump create the MAGA movement or did the MAGA movement create Donald Trump? That's a fascinating test. Here. Did Trump really dictate what MAGA is, or are they going to dictate it to him over the course of these Epstein files? That's going to be fascinating to watch.
That's such a great question. It's such a great.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Yeah. Did Trump create the MAGA movement or did the MAGA movement create Trump? I think, that is a good question, actually. How did I think about it? It's true. because Donald Trump, like, it's a good question. And seeing Vinny and Vinny 100% correct, by the way, 100% correct. And Virginia Giuffre, uh, it said she committed suicide, but it's like, who knows? Like, she was 41 years old, and if this happened to her when she was underage, um, if this happened to her when she was underage, that's a long time to go living with all this trauma behind you. I'm not saying it's impossible, but why at 41 take your own life? So it just raises more questions. Like, clearly there's something happened, something went down. This isn't just girls randomly coming out for looking for money. This isn't just a Me Too thing. Obviously, clearly, like with Epstein and stuff, and listen, he was convicted. Ghislaine Maxwell is in a jail cell right now. For what? Like, if there's nothing that happened, then what? Well, what is this all for then? Clearly there's an island. So obviously something went down. It's just what exactly went down and who was involved. That's what we're trying to get here, and that's what the MAGA movement is trying to get from Donald Trump. But man, I gotta say, like I said, as much as it annoys me sometimes about how some people in MAGA could spurg out over everything, I gotta say this one, I think we gotta stick to it. In my opinion, because if we get this done, if we are able to be like loud enough where we actually get Donald Trump and them to release this stuff, at least as much as possible. I mean, it would be great if they released everything, but again, who knows who's really behind this stuff? Who are the powerful people behind this? Who is the they? Who is the them? Who is the ones behind this? If we were able to unveil this, like, no one could talk shit about us ever again. Like the left, the Democrats, like, we're a real movement here, like, we're a real movement. And I think we have to keep this administration, we have to hold their feet to the fire. We have to. But what do you guys think about this? Sound off in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy content like this. And if you want to see more Piers Morgan Uncensored, you can go to his channel as well. He has more stuff like this. And I'll see you guys later.